Alright guys, today I'm going to show you how to upload my spreadsheet into an optimizer like Roto Grinders or Daily Fantasy Nerd. So basically I have my spreadsheet here. Now for those people that use PCs or have Excel, you can just copy paste my spreadsheet. Once it's up, you can copy paste it into either an Excel spreadsheet or you can even use Google for numbers. Basically just, click, highlight the whole thing, copy, paste, pretty easy. So once you have it up, what you're going to want to do is you want to convert it to a CSV file, which is basically stands for comma separated values. It's basically a standard format that you can use. Makes it a lot smaller and easier for programs to use. So we're going to export to a CSV. I'm going to save it. I have a folder set up for all my CSV files. I'm going to save it there. And then we're going to open it. Desktop, CSVs, and the 17th. The table you're going to want to use is going to be the all table. You don't need the rest of these. The all table is the one that has all the players, obviously, so that's the one we want to use. So we're going to open that. And you'll see it's basically the spreadsheet without all the color coding. It's just straight numbers. There's no formulas or anything in this. It's just a straight number sheet. So the first thing you're going to want to do is remove all this up here. You don't need anything, these top four columns, rows, you can just delete those. And then we're going to delete everything else except for the grade and the player name. So I'm going to not delete that and not delete that. So delete the rest of them. So now all we have is the player name and the grade. I'm just going to switch positions here to make it a little more easy to understand. Now with Roto Grinders, the top name here, player name, obviously you can say the same, but Roto Grinders doesn't recognize grade, they recognize FPTS, fantasy points. This needs to be up here for them to understand that these are actually fantasy points. Now for us, it's a grade, it's not a fantasy point, so you're actually not going to get projections, which I'll show you in just a minute. If you're using Daily Fantasy Nerd, I think the topic has to be FP for fantasy points. But they'll tell you, and in your optimizers, they'll tell you what to put in your top row here. All right, so once we have this, I'm going to go back and I'm going to export it again to a CSV file. And we'll just copy over the one we already had. Replace. Alright, now we will go to Roto Grinders. Up here you'll see where it says Lineup HQ. Click on that. Over here you'll see this little Upload tab right next to the drop down menu. You click on that. Click on Choose File. And we will go to the CSV file we created. Click Upload. It says upload has been imported successfully. So basically now all the players, instead of having Roto Grinders projections, now have my grades as fantasy points. Now keep in mind, this is not a projection. These are not points. These are just grades based on a number of factors. So when we do an optimized lineup, you're not getting the highest projected point total. You're just getting the best graded lineup. So once you've got everything loaded in here, you can just leave it as is if you want. Click Build 10 Lineups. And I'll show you a few of the options you have once you do this. Alright, so here's the projections based on my grades. So you can ignore this at the bottom here. This is not a projected total. This is just my grades put into the optimizer. So you've got right now Drew Holiday, Lonzo Ball, Clarkson, Booker, Ingram, Warren, Porzingis, Millsap, Monroe is one lineup. And you can just kind of scroll through. There's 10 lineups that are built. And you'll see over here in the column your player exposures. A lot of them are 100%, some are 90%, 80%. I typically don't leave it as is. I will sometimes, but every once in a while I'll go and I'll see a player that I don't want to have in my lineup. So you can actually go over to player pool. Let's say we don't want to have Paul Millsap in our lineup. We'll go over here to player pool. I'm going to put Millsap in here. And over here you have exclude and lock. So I'm going to exclude him from our lineups. And then you can go to build rules, which is here, and you can control this as well. Basically, this is the optimal lineup, which will give you the highest, projected total. You can do balanced, or you can do a random, which is good for tournaments. I leave it on optimal most of the time. The second line, you can do more than 10 lineups if you want. If you want to do 150 lineups, or if you just want to keep it at 10, which is where I usually keep mine. This min salary, max salary, typically I just scroll it up. I don't like to spend much more than my total amount. I'll do like 57.8, just so it won't go below that. Number of unique players, I usually set it at 3, but you can leave it wherever you want. And then max exposure, I typically bring this back to about 50%, give or take. Alright, so once you set all those, you can click build 10 lineups again. Give it a second. Alright, so now you see over here you got build 1, which is the first one we did, and we got build 2, which now has lineups built that exclude Paul Millsap. You'll see over here your exposures now are no more than 50% across the board, and each lineup will have 3 unique players from the previous lineup because of all the settings that we used over here. Now let's say you wanted to lock a player in. Let's say we wanted to lock in LeBron James tonight. So James, click lock, build 10 lineups. You'll see over here that LeBron James is locked into your lineup. And then every lineup in here, as you'll see, LeBron James, 100%. They will all include LeBron James. So what I typically do is I'll have 2 or 3 players that I really want to have in my lineups. I will lock them in, either all 3 of them or 2 at a time, and just build multiple lineups until I see one that I actually really like. And that's really it. Once you've got that, just, pick your lineup, plug it in, and you're ready to roll.